Conference championships start now. Mars Hill, Newberry, top of their division in the Southeast Appalachian region. My name is Corin. With me is Connie. Pleasure to have you along here for another week of collegiate Call of Duty. It's been a 2-week hiatus before we finally get back into our conference championships. Here's what's on the line tonight, Connie. First seed in their respective brackets, as well as being able to take home $600. That's a pretty sweet deal to me.
Absolutely, especially for this stage of the year where we haven't really entered the real meat and potatoes yet, you know, the land right at the end, and of course the regions playing against each other. But crown a conference champion early on, I mean, it's a morale boost. When you look at Mars Hill and Newberry, desperately looking for, you know, they've been underdogs for a large portion of the seasons. The rosters themselves know that they're against, you know, always, you know, your Fishers, your Oklahoma Christians, and it's not just a proving ground for them to actually get something, a trophy for the cabinet, but also, again, stock going into what could be a very crucial point here, Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. Turning point of the season. Again, that #1 seed is the most important thing that you could be chasing right now inside of the Collegiate Call of Duty League. We'll look at the head-to-head for these two teams, as they have played once already this season. We'll dive into that in just a moment. But on the side of Newberry, a lot of those maps that you see lost there, specifically the S&Ds, a lot of those came to the side of Mars Hill. So very similar on both sides, but obviously on paper, at least Mars Hill technically with the advantage, just not as many maps played.
Yes, and I mean, listen, when you compare and contrast anything, the worst record in there is 10-3 in S&D, and that belongs to Newberry. How astounding does it have to be across a sample size now, an average of 15 maps a mode, to have pretty much a 95% conversion rate? That's both teams right here, against the rest of the pack. So I'm going to look at, you know, on paper, how high their records are. I'd still count it as a 50-50 here, Alex, purely for the fact that with Mars Hill and Newberry being so dominant across their regions and having limited playing time against each other, you know, they don't really know their sample size and map pools all that well. And we're going into a best of 7, which is really a test of how much are you going to know this, well, this late on now.
Yeah, I mean, it could very easily turn into a battle attrition if we do see that illustrious Game 7. I do want to quickly rewind here, though, and kind of discuss the series that these two teams had already earlier on inside of our CCL season. It was a 2-3 Mars Hill victory over the side of Newberry. But the modes that were won, a hardpoint and a control there for Newberry, which is rather interesting because a lot of the times we see, especially in collegiate Call of Duty, at the top of the individual regions, the team that is #1 or the reigning champion typically doesn't really lose respawns. And the fact that 2 respawns dropped for Mars Hill, I don't want to say necessarily is anything or a raise for concern, but I think it also is a testament to how they play well together. Those search and destroys being near mint for them, I think is really the conversation starter. And the fact that we're going to see obviously 2 of those throughout this best of 7 series, it does play into things. But we're not going to see that second search and destroy until Game 7. We don't really even get much other than respawn for most of it. So that's where I think Mars Hill definitely can get caught up. And if, you know, that trip does happen, Newberry very much is in a position to be able to potentially take this conference championship.
Now, what I find so interesting here, Alex, is the pattern in which this 3-2 happened. I mean, this is not normal. Usually when you're 2-1 up in the first 3 maps, the following maps after that, you're firmly in control, your morale's very high, but at the same time, I mean, look at the picks. A Vault Map 5 S&D, especially winning the back of a Hacienda for Mars Hill, just immediately swings momentum back into their court. And looking at the S&D split as well, Mars Hill won both of them in pretty comfortable fashion and is the swing game mode, definitely for these two teams based on prior history. Now, in terms of today's matches as well, there's no red card in this best of 5, right? So we can immediately decide between these two teams. That right there is an instant no-no, Alex.
Yeah, and I do want to say real quickly, too, like, just kind of going across the board here, the reason why this best of 5 set is so important going into this grand final, as we take a look at our map set now, is the first 4 maps in our best of 7 were played within that best of 5. The Hacienda, the Vault, the Protocol, and the Vault for Hardpoint are guaranteed 4 within a best of 7. All 4 of those were the maps that we saw within that previous best of 5 series. So lots of not only tape to go back and watch, but realistically speaking, both teams opportunities to right wrongs or continue to do the things that they found success on. Mars Hill will get that opening opportunity, although on the Hacienda, to once again beat Newberry inside of that hard point. But going throughout the rest of this best of 7, again, that's what makes it so interesting to me, is because of those maps that we saw in that best of 5. That's what ends up really slipping through the cracks mostly for this best of 7 series.
And this is just, you know, a rehash of what's already come before. The last scoreline on the Hacienda was 250 to 193, and what an opening here. They're coming in pretty much cold, both teams. First map of the series, not quite the map 4 they had last time when they were both warmed up, and Newberry had a 2-1 advantage, so it's going to be a nice visit here in a different tempo. The scoreline will definitely not be 193 to 250.
Sure.
I can just say that out the gate based on the temperature of the players, and also, again, first in the best of 7 for the conference championship. Yeah, you're not really going to be playing your greatest Call of Duty. Lots of mistakes will occur throughout the map, and we'll point it out to you at home as they do happen. Vault S&D as your second map is equally as brave, because it's just so fickle, and there's one dominant strategy that's run straight to pool every single time. So they're not really exploring many like deeper strategies and tactical attributes early on. They're saving it for the back end right there, the Hacienda S&D and a Hacienda Control. So yeah, this is going to be definitely a growing series, and a best of 7 where, you know, we talk about, you know, the tempo and the speed and the energy exertion of all 8 players in the lobby as, you know, we progress throughout these maps. That's 2 hours of consistent game time, Alex, with breaks in between. They're going to be so tired. And we're going to see lots of scatter graphs change around here.
I'd love to say they're going to be tired, yes, but I mean, what, 6 of the 8 players on both of these teams were just in Dallas this past weekend as they were playing in the Optic Texas Open. So it's like, for Diff and Cells, they played together on a roster. Beasley and Eternals played on opposite teams. Lucho and Trakes, when we talk up the Mars Hill roster, also played on different teams, each varying levels of success. I would say Trakes had the better of everybody there, as we kind of expected, but a top 16 finish for Trakes. On the opposite side for Newberry, Beasley and Eternals both play 64, but Diff and Cells together were a top 32 team. So nobody really coming home with like a crazy exciting finish, but you know, talking on the like the level of like tiredness, I promise you, playing from 9:30 in the morning, you know, obviously they didn't play all the way until 2:30 a.m., but they played a long day of Call of Duty, so I don't think a best of 7 is going to be anything to really cause concern. But just kind of talking about, you know, like wide general numbers and just like everything involved. For the side of Newberry, like, this is a team where throughout the course of the year, you didn't really see them, quote unquote, get better together, as you don't really see a lot of these top teams get better together throughout the course of the years. Like, yes, they play their collegiate games together and they have matches within the CCL, but a lot of these players are challengers players who are playing with a wide array of different rosters. So there are a different chemistry of play styles that come together when you do play Hacienda, or you play Vault, or really any map or mode combination in the game, which makes it more fun at the top level. Because for Newberry, when they do come into their CCL matches, or Mars Hill when they come into theirs respectively, you don't necessarily know 100% of what you're going to get. You could have been playing great one weekend on one map, but then you come with your team and it's like, why do we suck?
Yeah, then there's no real sort of in between, or like no real sort of matches that we have from the period of, you know, a catastrophic fall off to assess what needs to change. It really is just a case of the challenger's cycle where you will have various teammates, and it feels like it's a one all fits piece of the puzzle. You know, you can go into any team, accrue information, expand your knowledge on where to play, learn your positions and get better at them. But when we go into more of this system, Call of Duty, Alex, where it is just college card, set teams throughout the year, developing as a core, which is so important again to player development and reaching a high level. Some of the Challengers players involved in here as well. 2 of the guys in the lobby are not in Challengers, but still here in the grand final today. I mean, this is sort of where we have to say who's been in charge of the roster for both, and what have they installed, what leadership skills and what systems have they put in place to really make sure they stand the best chance of taking it home today. We're going to see it in the first 3 maps.
Yeah, we absolutely will. But again, guaranteed for Hacienda, Vault, Protocol, and Vault are the first 4 maps that we will be, again, guaranteed to see within a best of 7 series. As we kind of just take a look at individual team records for really every map and mode that we have in front of us, you can see Mars Hill undefeated on the first 2, lost to Protocol, lost to Vault Hardpoint. Those just so happen to be to this Newberry roster. So that's why, again, I brought in the conversation from the, you know, rewind back to the series they played versus now. A lot of, you know, time and opportunity for those mistakes to be fixed and made good. Again, that does, you know, coincide with them playing as a team together, so you can make an argument wherever you so like to.
Absolutely can.
Across the board, like I just look back to like the regular part of the season, like, realistically speaking, none of that really matters now.
I don't know. Looking at the overall numbers, I mean, me and you can say this, and everyone else can hit it at home. Both teams are very dominant. I mean, you'll see some 1-1s on there, of course. Limited sample size for Newberry and the Hacienda Hardpoint. Limited sample size for Mars Hill Esports on the Hacienda S&D. But still, I mean, it just comes down to, again, at this stage, I just know the two teams and the veto selection, the coaching staff, it's just play what you're good at. You're going to let a few maps slip in there, which you might not be too comfortable on, but, you know, your hard vetoes are out of there already. It'd be a dire situation if we were to see, like, you know, an instant ban throughout the whole season, suddenly floating into a grand final. It's just, you know, alarm bells. And thankfully, again, with the coaching staffs across both teams and in CCL, that's not going to happen, you know. So you have to go in there with the understanding and closure of this is the best possible set of maps we can get across both teams. Go out there and have fun, have a great game. You know, not the end of the season just yet. Although it feels like a giant apex, we haven't quite scaled Everest just yet.
Now, we're not even at the climax yet. That's when we get to the regional playoffs where that will begin. But for Newberry, I guess just kind of talking, you know, wide about this team for quite a bit here. So let's kind of narrow in on two players. I think Diff and Cells are two that come to the mind immediately of anybody that's watched this Newberry roster over the course of this entire season. The way that they've been able to run around the map together with the SMGs in tow. This is the bright spot for Newberry. The two players that I think, in my opinion, need to get going early on and continue to push that barrier forward for Newberry. Regardless, though, Cells will be in the middle of the map early on. Zuner will look for the gunfight across the left-hand side, but it's 4 players top. Open for Mars Hill. They'll look back into the hill, and it's clean gunfights for him so far.
Again, this is the grand final here of the Appalachian region. Across both teams, again, very close rivals, but when it comes to the players in the lobby, it could almost be classed as North America v South America. We've got Trakes, Lucho, Zuna. I mean, there's a few players that I can see, again, dominating LATAM Challengers a couple years ago, now setting their stones over here in the States, and already a very evenly contested P1 here. Scrap time, though, being mainly held by Newberry. The final few players from Mars Hill, though, are trying to fortify position. The spawns will go to Newberry's way for that P2 garage, but let's see how they flood. They're going straight back again to try and get the exit kills.
Only one playing top. You got Dip. Looking for a contestant over by the vineyard to catch anybody coming off. Not that well spawned. Problem is, Trakes got through inside below. Nobody watched the secret cutoff. Now you're looking for the player on the old car on the ramp. Zuner and Lucho from the front will pair for a few. That allows the break to come in from Mars Hill quite handedly. Sure, you get a spawn on the back from Eternals, but it's going to be mostly from the front for Newberry.
And it's a weird split as well, because Diff's the only person from Newberry that could cut the line here, but even his death will put him right back at the front of garage. So Mars Hill, we've got to rely a lot on Lucho here with a full utility belt to try and hold off the fences while the remaining players swing into the hill and get cut-offs. Now look at the actual pressure on the front here. It's a 2v1. Mars Hill have to try and hold a very static setup while Newberry reposition for a heavy flood.
Ooh, shaky shots for a moment. Thought Zuner should walk away with a gunfight. Instead, it is a flurry of red kills in the feed for Newberry. Left in the corner, you have Aaron. Looking to maybe push up Zuner onto the rock for those exit kills as you rotate over to on P3, but you have to look for K. Beasley. Made his way to top office. Has good timing on a few players out by the rock side. Just wants to lay down and stay in position. Let this Newberry Esports roster start to push their way up the map. But as he's playing the contestant, you also have Lucho playing the cutoff over by Well.
Now, it's really hard as well for K. Beasley to actually lock in spawns in this position, because if it wasn't for Mars Hill and the two blockers moving out of position, Newberry wouldn't have gotten it. Thankfully, again, the player crossed underneath of the VIP room, and looking at it, Mars Hill have to hold from the front, which is very viable here on this hill. 2 ARs can post up. They have to have a player watching the mid-cross, which of course is going to be Zuna, and it can be very punishing here. Look at the scoreboard right now, a 40-point gap forming. The first 30-something seconds go to way of Mars Hill Esports, and Newberry have to respond with time of their own, but also sacrifice rotation to New. So already Mars Hill have firm control of this match.
On the outside looking in, Eternals flank from the office, but with the Mars Hill spawn close, it's going to be a top-down push in. Newberry on the backside. Diff will look for another. On the drop-down to the backside, it's in. 12 seconds left. 2 arrows from Mars Hill. And all of a sudden, with the Trakes win on Eternals, the entire north side is just locked down. Newberry in a world of pain right now trying to push P4.
And look at the spread as well. There's nobody in mid-map to even contest a gunfight. Newberry are trying to go really static here in 2 pairs of 2 to cross over the exits. But Mars Hill, again, have got a very unique setup here. It's quite bespoke because they've sent Lucho to cross around the map here to make sure that they can keep Newberry Esports in one location, avoid the split spawns. But Aaron here is sort of dipping in and out of garage where the pressure can easily overwhelm Mars Hill, because look at Newberry's funnel here.
That was the worst timing that Trakes could have possibly gotten. Had eyes on mid-map the entire time, and finally when the push came through, he turns around, goes back over to Boathouse to try and cut that spawn off. However, Zuner will still play down here, play the contestation, finally slides in across when he knows the reinforcements are directly behind him. Gunfights still being won from the front by Newberry. Lucho, up to him to make a massive play by himself. Can't find the second. Nobody else here from Mars Hill, at least right now. So the final contested time should go the way of Newberry. You can see Mars Hill trying to set up in mid.
And this is great scrap time as well because their gap from 40 is now cut down to about 20, with Mars Hill still winning a large portion of the initial time in each hill. Now we flip back over towards the second set of rotations. This P1, though, very different from the first set. Nobody's really going for time here. It's Newberry setting up again for exit kills. They've got 3 in middle. They've put Diff on the north side of the map to watch for a huge cross, but Mars Hill, they're playing it quite careful here, clearing every single corner.
Soon will push his way in. Great shot, one. But another 3 dead for Newberry. So they continue to find kills around the map, just picking and prodding for where these Mars Hill roster players are trying to make their way back inside a middle map. 1-1 we go from top close. Cell's trying to hold down the P2 spawns on the right-hand side. Player 4 will spawn there, so they'll have the man advantage on that left side of the map, but Mars Hill will collapse. Out towards the rock side, Zuner will get bad timing. But you look to Trakes. Potentially push the map up. Unfortunately, falling off quickly, though. Weird split coming in from Mars.
Yeah, they've taken the lead, Newberry, from that hill, so this is the first time now where Mars have to get at least some foot back in the game. They've lost the battle for spawns. Beasley's done an incredible job of keeping the unit compact. Mars Hill, now only 3 players left on the map, 1 in hill, desperately calling for help from his teammates. Lucho here spraying across the exit, and it really is going to be a scrappy garage hill.
Oh, it's over from the front, but he's got a double hit that he needs to be careful of, and caught in the reload. So the challenge in from Trakes now. Looking to the backside of spawn. Great shots. Finds number 3. Help out from Zuner. Mars Hill break in. 40 seconds of time could go their way. And they turn back around to rock. They know where the Newberry hit's coming from.
Yeah. And look at the actual positional advantage here as well. Lucho's got a lot of pressure to hold the fight in lobby, but again, it's cleaned up by Zuna, so now they can refocus towards front. Newberry have got 2 bodies thrown towards it. Trakes, not enough health to warrant any challenge. 40 HP and a stray bullet will at least now equalize the trades, with Lucho's final spawn coming in from inside of lobby. Look at the rotation and the behavior of Newberry. They're running straight towards the west side of the map. KBZ again, left on an island. A lot of trust in this young man to try and get some control and call out a spawn, because it's really splitting up here, Alex.
Trick on top secret. Has 2 bodies directly below him. Spawn's going to be close in from Mars Hill in the back, so Lucho will be able to help around the hill. Long range shots. Going to go the way of Cells this time. Cheeky little snapback from Trakes once again. He's got 1 more on the top side of plat that he doesn't read out. So the drop in from Newberry. Uncontested time will sit white. But his 2 players now look to do-si-do around inside of the hard point. Diff will be in the back end of 10. Looking to pepper some shots with the AR at range.
Now this is very precarious here for Newberry. One last 1v1. Aaron just about keeps it. With that nade flying over, it stalls Mars Hill's push, and the players from Newberry again are completely flipped. They're not reading the pressure Mars Hill in this situation, and this is a heavily contested hill. 23 seconds go to nobody. The remaining scrap time will have Newberry's name on it, but look at Mars Hill's position here, Alex. They played to have heavy contest, immediate setup here on New. Trophies are down. A lot of the lanes, though, from Newberry are very well executed. Nobody's funneling through mid. They're attacking 2 choke points.
Well, the thing is like Mars Hill got way too aggressive on the push outs. Instead of just waiting for the push to come through and be able to cut down the angles while the flank was developing for Mars Hill, it ended up just being an over-aggressive challenge out to the boathouse side, where you lose bodies and numbers immediately. So now Newberry has full advantage here. Trakes is forced to back all the way off. He can take 2 different 1v1s, and if anybody's going to take them from Mars Hill, it's exactly who you want. Diff will just re-wrap to the opposite side of rock. You just don't expect that head glitch shot to come through.
And listen, as it comes to the 23 seconds here for Newberry, they have scaled up again from a very slow start to now comfortably getting a good 27-point lead here off of this hill. Now look at Mars. They're fighting again for control. Who's prioritizing the rotation to New? I mean, both teams are. The pressure for Mars Hill, though, is greater in mid. Newberry have got the worst side here on the map to try and get an angle.
Nade tossed by Trakes. Works to the timing. From the rock side, though, Mars Hill will look to fight. And this is the spot you want to be at if you are the 5th ranked Mars Hill roster. You don't have eyes on K. Beasley just yet. You're turned all the way back around, and now you know that he's top closed. So AR's winning gunfights on the top. Cells looks to disrupt here. Lucho doesn't get the read on it over by Rock. Kazuner's the only one to break up the kill feed from Newberry's 3 dead. So as he's forced to back off, time once again going the way of this Wolves roster.
Oh, yeah. Let it breathe a little second there, Alex, for Mars Hill, because they're realizing we can sacrifice 25 seconds here. We don't want that ideally, because again, this hill can be quite, bountiful for setting up new, and we are in the end game now. Nearly 200 points crossed for either side. More than likely it's going to be Newberry, but they're behaving like they want a full 60 on the next hill, and it's going to be a big operation here to fence in every single player from Newberry and lobby. And Lucho has to hold his trophies very careful here. He's put it in a spot can easily be shot, but repositioning, he's over-adjusting to quite a nice level here. Newberry's got a long route from K. Beasley in the water. Nobody's really covering it. They're focusing here on lobby. Might be a mistake. It could be if timing doesn't work.
Knew that Eternals had one in his sights, and the water route is just simply not read. From the front side, K. Beasley, oh my god! Fight you just should not win.
Never in your lifetime. Never in any lifetime. But Newberry gonna lose the lead for this one. Mars Hill will eclipse at 205 points. A 2-2 split for Newberry to try and cross back into the hill. The pressure has been greatly spread out, but Mars Hill blocked by Garage. So when it comes to the next set of kills, Zuna's got the AR posted up. He's got no bullets to finish off the kill. A wallbang will do the job just fine. No one's controlling lobby spawns. There we go. The call from Zuna to say he's there means they can now read the pressure. 230 points to Mars Hill Esports, almost confirmed. A rotation for Newberry to try and get back.
But here's the thing, it won't matter because Trake's with the back end of time in P2, he's got a Hellstorm to use. So on the breakover by P3, you've got the 25-point lead, and you have utility to break this on Newberry. Gunfights being one up top. Trake's on the back end will finally clean it, and they don't even need the Hellstorm to break in. That's 4 dead. 20-point game climbing now. Mars Hill 15 for the win.
Trake's is on 22 and 19 about a minute and a half ago, Alex. He's now sitting at 32 and 22 on that 7. The Hellstorm accrued, as you mentioned. Nearly 2 minutes in the hill. He has held it down for his team, coordinated the attack, and really the conductor for Mars Hill in the opening Hacienda. A couple extra exit kills. Was it in consolation? Yes, it was. Mars Hill open up the grand final. They get map 1 and have the driver's seat firmly secured as we go into that Vault S&D.
That's just pretty stuff all around for Mars Hill.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you talk about Newberry just kind of keeping it scrappy, keeping it close the entire game. All it takes is one back end side of P2, you scrap 20 on it, and then it's a staggered push. Like when you over to P3, like you're expecting a one-man, like you're expecting a lot of top side pressure. You're expecting somebody to get up through secret. I just don't understand where the play call came in from Newberry. And I get they lost a couple of gunfights, and that's really all it comes down to on a rotation. But just the setup wasn't there. They didn't have enough bodies watching the top side of office. They didn't really have anybody holding firm over the vineyard side. So it's like, once that first blood, maybe 2, comes in, then Newberry just gets collapsed upon. Everybody's just trying to turn around and pick up something that they weren't supposed to be watching, and that's where trust in the teammates has to be there. And it was for the majority of the game, but at the end there, it just was a fall apart. Probably a lack of comms, and then it was just a sprint back to the hard point where they were getting lined up. ADS is held. So yeah, I mean, that's about as standard as you can have it. But for Mars Hill, it's another map where it's very closely contested, but they took it in the last best of 5 series. They strike first here.
And we break down the line graph for you as well to show the play of the game, not just to play the state of it as well. 4 total lead changes in this one, Alex, but 3 of them came in the second set of rotations. Yep. I mean, when it comes to the scale from P1 the second set to P1 the third set, 113 to 98 to 199 to 81. A lot more points were accrued in this portion than, of course, any other set of hills. But Mars Hill, again, had a really strange state of flux here. They were fighting to get control in the P2. They got the control. They gave it up again in the P4, although it was mainly a contested hill. And then at the start of the next P1, both teams again made the most of the situation at hand, but the rotation was Mars's for P2 on the final set of rotations. That was the Eclipse, and as we saw with Trakes, he went on a 7 spree in the end. Now, of course, to mention another player that really caught my eye, Lucho. Lucho was the player on the island for Mars Hill, watching every single cutoff or flank into every hill. And for submachine gun, he won his ones, he controlled spawns to a very good degree. With Newberry's style of play, though, they were really spread out. We saw them constantly block in 2 pairs of 2 for a lot of the breaks, whereas Mars Hill, they were a very compact 4. At times they would send a player out on the island, Lucho. The remaining 3, though, would constantly have the extra man if the hill were to be taken. That's why I feel like when it comes to lots of the trades we saw, Alex, Mars Hill were always on top.
They were. And I mean, that's all it comes down to. It's all it boils down to is just if you can win your gunfights or not. I mean, you pointed out to Lucho, and I think you made a great point there because Lucho has been, you know, historically somebody that will play those cutoff pinches. And when you have Trakes on your roster, you don't need to do anything flashy. He will be the one to potentially solo break a hill, especially in collegiate Call of Duty. I mean, he was frying this weekend in Texas. He comes back into the CCL. I mean, you know, look, you can take this how you want to. It probably feels like child's play in a sense. And it's like, not to take anything away from different cells, they are phenomenal. Same thing with K. Beasley and Eternals. But a lot of the times when you look to these top 5 teams within the inside of the Call of Duty, or excuse me, the collegiate Call of Duty league, you find players that are just going to be a sub above everybody else. And right now, that's what Trakes is being able to do. You pair that with Lucho, Aaron, and Zuner, players he's played alongside or against within the LATAM scene for many, many years, and is getting to do that inside of college with them. It's a very free-flowing game, and that's what you get from Mars Hill. Again, it might not be a crazy 100-point game, but it doesn't need to be. A 39-point win is still the win, and in the moments where they needed to tee up, they do. So it's, I don't know. It just feels like there is still a barrier between Mars Hill and Newberry. I don't want that to become like, I don't want that to come across in like any sort of negative way to any Newberry fans that may be watching, but that's just simply how it is.
And one thing as well, which you have to mention for Newberry in this situation, is that they still have players again that are on high performing challengers teams. You mentioned players like Sal's, for example, coming into this one, and the positions again where both players across both teams have, you know, finished around the same sort of ballpark here in Texas. So it really is just a case of, again, getting acclimatized to the new environment. Mars Hill, though, one little feather in the cap that always floats around is that they have more historical winners on their teams. We talk about Trakes. I mean, arguably, again, one of the greatest players ever to come out of the LATAM region. One interesting stat to pull out from the hat is in MW2, out of the 15 Challenger Cups that we had, Trakes won 12 of them.
Yeah.
That's an 85% win rate in one region alone. So he's used to being in control and dominating. Of course, coming to America is a much more saturated pool, and you can find anyone that could beat you at any given time. It's such a different kettle of fish. But still, again, when you have players like Drakes of his talent, he can hold his own. And in College COD, yeah, I think it just creates this grand final with a sense of ethos where Drakes has been here before 12 different times and won it.
Yeah, you really caught me off guard when you said a different kettle of fish, bro. You Europeans have some crazy ways of saying some different things over there, but you know what? I love it. It's
ditto as well,
sure.
Alex. You guys have got a whole nother set of language to showcase, you know, hyperbole. But yeah, it really is. It's true though. I mean, how would you ever compare? I mean, lots of the players that come into College COD and their accolades and, you know, their resumes as to what they've done. Some of them are just crazy like that, so you have to point it out and go, you can apply it in most situations.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Like, again, I think from where we've gone from grassroots collegiate Call of Duty back in the day, where it was just like, you know, 4 people out of school that said, hey, let's go play in this like young and developing league, to where we saw it kind of take that turn in Cold War, where we started seeing like Ottawa, where we had Fame and you had Hoop Tape Herbie, you had Noisy on that roster, and then you saw just year over year more and more talent enter into collegiate Call of Duty, because I mean it's a double whammy, right? You get your Scully, or you go to school and you're able to not only work for a degree, but you play COD at the same time, so you're kind of working that double tandem thing. And there was kind of like a stigma around collegiate Call of Duty for a while, where it was like, oh, it's just CCL kids, it's just CCL kids. Now it's like, now you've got top 8, top 4 challengers players or former professional players playing inside of the collegiate Call of Duty league, and it's just like, now all of a sudden that barrier that was already there between like the top 2-3 teams expands all the way out until like 5th, 6th, and then you have an entire other group of players who are good challengers players, but it just almost feels like it's never enough against some of the top teams. Regardless, we'll put a pin in that, talk about that maybe a little bit later. With Diff in the back, just watching the P3 hit. Mars Hill a bit unorthodox here on this offensive round. They want to work that bomb over to B. Diff is quite literally putting a rock in a hard place together.
And Bomb's really sensitive mid here. Very dangerous for Mars Hill Esports. They want to float it towards Pool, of course. Newberry haven't really got a setup in place to try and take Bomb in a post plant. They want to try and allow Eternals to get as much information as possible for the team, and then they can start aggressing out spawn. But Mars Hill haven't really checked the flanks yet. The first blood being onto Aaron really puts a lot of panic onto Zuna. He's the island player that's completely isolated, meaning it's basically a 4v2, Alex.
But the site is open. So if Newberry want to dip down in, they've got 2 bodies they could put there immediately. K. Beasley knew that there was nowhere else that Zuner could be. But now the drop down from Trakes. Snaps back over to the right. I thought he had it for a moment. 1 versus 1. Give themselves an opportunity. Cells is just going to hop it. Is he going to get the good timing here? Lucho on the wrap. About 3 seconds to the good here. We'll make it stick inside the bottom side of Pool. So Mars Hill, I don't want to say necessarily got lucky, but make a 2v4 work thanks to a couple nice kills.
Yeah, and again, the last two players up, of course, were the roaming subs. Lucho in another situation again where it feels like he can't sit still, but in the opening round he got 3 of those kills, and he happily checked bomb at such a convenient position. I mean, holding your life in pool and upper balcony and, you know, back pool house is tough on its own against 4 players. Newberry don't away. I don't think they utilized the fact that they had the overload, Alex, at any given time. They could definitely compact it as a 4 and just, you know, pack hunted the remaining Mars Hill players. But flip the sides around here. Trophy's going down for Lucho's defense, and Mars Hill already have contact.
Gonna be the center window drop into the A site. Beasley on the plant. Trakes will be able to slide in. And that's help all the way around the map. So if you're Diff, beforehand where you were locking Mars Hill off of that B site, you are now alone in a 1v3. If you got 2 targets in front of you, long range shots out towards the pool is just not enough. Palm's head glitch, strong enough for Mars Hill to take the second round.
And what can we really say in that situation? Zuna this time around actually is the person again who picks up the pieces. And one key thing in the S&D when it comes to the system that Mars Hill already is showing, they actually have no struggle in the 1vx situations. And that's a huge green flag, particularly when it comes to the conditions to win an S&D. Usually it's man advantage. Usually it's the first bloods. Mars Hill, it feels like they're constantly putting pressure, even when they have less players. You know, it's just formidable. And they scaled the map to a point where Newberry are quite scared to attack. And that's already something that needs to change. And Diff needs to really find a good opening in this what could be pivotal round. But Aaron gets the first blood.
Beasley off the board. You were basically forced all the way out of ball. Got a slide challenge in from Eternals, but he has no help there. So maybe a bit unwise on the overpeak. And same thing happens yet again. It's just another solo chow while you're trying to set up a flank from cells. He's on the opposite end. Lucha will have the gunfight there. Nade plays perfectly. Easy round for Mars Hill. And again, like, after you lost that first body, you were not guaranteed any sort of space down low. I get you tossed some tacks in. You had a few lethals that were able to connect, so you had a few players weak, but you don't know how many people are down there. And if, especially if you're it's like solo challenging that, dude, I mean...
Do you know what I think is going on? When you see players behaving like that, they want to get through this quickly. You know, there's not really a sense of, let's just string the rounds out and try and get a few on the board, because we know that if one team like Mars Hill plays at a tempo that's just way too hard to catch, we slow it down for them and make it uncomfortable. You know, they just really, I don't think, want to be here. Already, it's quite a telling sign. But look at the mid push from Newberry.
Straight drop down. You got one in light, so Cells will finally break up the collective 10 spree that Mars Hill had for each other. Lucho was on 4 straight. First time he dies inside of the search and destroy. Trakes up through middle map in a 3 versus 3. As Eternal's looking out towards Zuner, and that's just something you don't need to chow time and time again. I mean, that's an over-aggression from Zuner, but like for Newberry, that's 3 straight rounds where I've seen 1 or 2 players just challenge something that is just it's simply not necessary.
Now, K. Beasley, again, actually really hard done in this situation. Had the perfect cut. We saw the line, and Mars Hill were basically clearing both extremities, north and south lane. The mid was completely for his taken. The gunfight position, I mean... really, in a situation where we see K. Beasley, it's more of a panic response to make it 1v1, but you know that Mars Hill have the skill to hold their life in these situations, even when a head glitch as powerful as Palm Tree exists. So I just feel like now they're letting rounds really get the best of them. One thing you pointed out, again, the trades when we see Newberry equalize, the taking challenges just don't make sense, you know, on the fundamental level of keeping everyone alive to get the advantage. But Lucho, bomb carry for this round, and look at the attack already, straight towards A, no nonsense, no mid push from Newberry, and they're just trying to be elusive.
Finally a blood for Newberry. Thank you, Eternals. We appreciate your services and contributions, but Lucho's getting the bomb down on A, and this is going to be a retake that's even harder. Zuner's got the entirety of the Palms locked down. Beasley's just on the slide shot, but he doesn't realize that he has Lucho pushing up directly behind him, and instead of hopping up, he's just going to take the long route all the way through square, and this is going to prove to be the best timing. Because now you have an opportunity in a 3 versus 3 with 30 seconds left to keep them out of the vault. Like, the thing is, this Newberry's down there. Mars Hill. They've got Zuner on the contestation. They have to kill him. They have to kill him.
Oh, my God. Okay, never mind, Alex. We thought for a second there, you know, the over-adjustments want me to curse a bit. But Newberry in this situation, they managed to find a beautiful close. They also held numbers, which is the first time really we've seen it so far in the 5 rounds of S&D we've had so far. So I think I found a solution.
Open.
Yes.
Like, that's all it was. Like, Zuner just held out in palms and vault was wide open. That's literally the entire reason I don't want to say that they lost the round, but I mean, after the 3 versus 3, you lose Lucho, and then it just became a lot more difficult.
It's the first time we've seen adaptation to a system that hadn't been adapted to yet, and palm trees work so well for Mars Hill. It's the first time again now we're starting to see them rip that page out the playbook, and we're going to see a new variation of what an A-hole might look like, because that's all that Vault really brings when it comes to the post-plant strategy.
That's
and
why
again, you only really see...
back.
Yeah, you only really see B again in the 2v2s, 3v3s because there's less room to cover. So, you know, population speaking, look at this opening. Static from both teams, spreading the cross. Mars have more pressure on the north side of the map. And Newberry getting that first blood drawn on the south side, so they have to rotate back through mid. And already they're playing here on option C out of the many available. So they're already at a disadvantage.
30 seconds to play with here. If you are Mars Hill on the retake, it's another 2 versus 3. Lucho tagged up at 79 HP. Keeps his life alive, though. So still very much a possibility that they could drop back down and take this round. Unfortunately, Aaron gets cleaned up on the opposite of the map as he dropped down into vault. It was a solo chow that goes wayward. Lucho, with 16 seconds left, there's just really not much noise that he can make, and he'll just run away. It'll be a Newberry round. So 2 straight rounds for him. I mean, this is vault.
It is vault. And Lucho at this point, again, is just, you know, playing the French timeout. You know, he's actually discussing the next round with his team, you know, as we are currently finishing off this round. It just feels like the most appropriate thing to do here for Mars Hill. They've lost their last 2 on the bounce. They had firm control. They have seen situations now where Newberry are capitalizing on their ability to flank. They really are finding the cutoffs convincingly. Sal's has been a main proponent for that. He's been the person that just sort of cuts mid the best out of the 4 players from Newberry. But at the same token, 2 rounds away to make it 2-0. So Mars Hill still have their foot on the gas in quite a comfortable position here in the S&D, Alex.
Going back to an offense, absolutely. But we've seen them falter round previous before Newberry was able to take their offense. Nothing too fancy this time. It's going to be a direct hit back down onto the A site. You've got a large spread from Mars Hill. This time it'll only be 1 body down below. Lucho will be able to get out with his life. And that's going to allow Zuner over the top of Palms to be able to pepper shots down. But I mean, if you're Aaron right now, you're just looking over the entirety of the P3 street, and you're like, hey guys, there's nobody here. They're going to push out the backside of P4, and they might be able to wrap this B.
Mars Hill Esports again, just covering a beautiful line into the spawn of Newberry. But the bomb being floated over here without support. Again, look towards the north side of the map. Aaron's got the cut off perfectly onto Beasley. You've now opened up a beautiful lane here to actually get B converted. But Aaron has to get control of Palace or Art. Those are the 2 positions again where we see the strategy kind of falter. Newberry can fence Mars Hill in this position. Once they cross the mid, though, it goes more towards Mars Hill's favor.
Talk about a cruddy spot. Diff pops up. Honestly, probably didn't even need to give his position away because Cells was there on Lion, but it's a tag team effort that works out. 2 versus 3. Eternals has snuck through in from behind. You just need to take care of the bomb planter. Stuck in the corner. Shot shaky. 1v2. Cells last alive with 15 seconds. Can he clutch it? He knows they have to play over by B, but the wrap back to the vault. Oh, he might have just got the greatest timing ever because Zuner's going to drop down, but does he turn around to help out his teammate? Knife out. Challenge good. 1 versus 1. Bomb trying to go down. Shoulders around the right side, but it's won by Mars Hill.
Oh, squeezed out the last ounce of ice that he could find in his system for that one. Although, again, you have to respect the play from Newberry in that situation. Cricket's spin was phenomenal. Was just hoping again that they were in an open post-plant position, but that wall, if it wasn't there, the round would be very different. He would have the bomb planter, and he'd have the person covering. It just is a case of, you know, knowing the reposition, knowing the slide mechanics. Mars Hill stand a great chance already with shots tagged into the Newberry player. 1 round away now from making it 2-0 in the series for Mars Hill and stepping ever closer to that conference championship. Already Newberry here against the wall. They send it all the way over towards A. No regard sent for anyone else other than themselves. It's the opening 3. And Mars Hill leaves Cells on his own, covering every lane with a couple more shots fired. He escapes, but 1 more left around the corner, and he hasn't got enough health or the gun up in time. It feels almost like they reach for the stars and they miss. But Mars Hill just about skirt away with the win in this map. A 6-2 in the S&D and a 2-0 so far in the series, Alex.
So I thought just for a moment, maybe if he doesn't swap out the knife there at the end, that he's able to take that against Lucho. But a double-digit performance For the man that placed top 48 in the Texas Open, 9-8 from Cells on the opposite side, but I mean, the difference is staunch. 6 kills in total between K. Beasley and Eternals. It's just one that hurts. We'll take a look back, and you can pretty much tell from everything that we saw here, it was clutch situations for Mars Hill that allowed them to really take that map and run away with it. 2 rounds that they won, no first bloods for them. One of those being a 2 versus 4. And then at the end, the 1v2, where you thought Diff was going to be able to get the good timing down below. Excuse me, Celis was going to be able to get the good timing down below. Takes the first gunfight. I mean, you have to play the 50-50, right? Because if he gets the bomb down, then, I mean, that should be an easy cleanup. But if he chows out, then you have to take the 1v1. So, laying down there, maybe not the best decision. But again, 50-50, you're not mad at the end of the day. You had to take that fight. But a 2-6 deficit here on Vault. I'm glad it's going away. 2, this is just where we're getting into the point where it feels like Mars Hill are hitting stride, and I don't like that for Newberry much, to be honest.
Absolutely, it is quite concerning. Now we go into the protocol control. Rounds 7 and 8 in this S&D could easily have made it 4-4 Newberry, Mars Hill. You know, just 2 instant cases of a 1v1 not going your way, and Newberry pulling things out of thin air where Mars Hill had full control and made them look foolish in man advantage situations. It just shows how S&D flutters sometimes, but I think the general consensus with Newberry, I didn't see a lot of synchronization through the mid rounds, and you know what really benefited them in the round 7 was knowing that Mars Hill were really having a lot of problems breaking through mid, and you have Cells who cuts it off perfectly. But Lucho probably is the best island player in this lobby, and him holding on to his life and creating these awkward timings and the rack plays as well in the S&D just caused way too many issues for Newberry to respond. Now we focus our attention over towards that protocol control, where already things are a bit more interesting. Newberry have a record of 6-1 on this game mode, and Mars Hill only have 2 reps on it so far in the CCL. So this could be an opportunity for Newberry, with their experience and their cadaver, to get a map on the board.
You very much hope so if you're a Newberry fan, and if you're the players as well. I think that much could be set in stone and in concrete. But yeah, I mean, this is an opportunity for sure for the Wolves to at least start hunting. But I mean, protocol control can be such a wash at times as well. Like, even though they only have 2 reps on it, I mean, really what it comes down to is 2 things. 1, who can have the better spawn trap on defense, and 2, who can be able to break out of said defensive spawn trap and be able to maybe capture a couple ticks here and there. So, I mean, across the board, it really isn't all that much different than any of the other control maps, bar maybe Hacienda. But I mean, the spawn trap on protocol is just so egregiously disgusting that, yeah, I mean, if you're on defense first, have fun. If you're on offense first, hopefully you get some ticks.
Now, when we actually look at the overall series selection today as well, I mean, Mars Hill, they had the control ban, and they got rid of Vault. Newberry only had to get rid of, 2 maps available, and they chose a Skyline Hardpoint to not be played, and a Protocol S&D. So Mars Hill, they're hoping again that if they were to go and see a map 6, Hacienda, of course, is their preferential favorite. They are, again, undefeated alongside Newberry in that map, and it's a lot more of an even footing.
Yeah.
Newberry have played protocol control consistently throughout CCL.
Sure.
Yeah, and we're in a stage now again where morale might be low. If they can find their habits and form and what worked for them well on this map mode combination, they're going to do just fine against Mars Hill, because this is sort of a different level of experience that we are facing here in this combination.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, look, number 1 seed on the line, $600 on the line as well for the team that is able to come out on top of this. But hey, here's one thing. If you want to save a little bit of money, well, guess what? Hey, you need a new controller? Guess what? Scuff, they've got it for you. If you want to play like the best, you have to play with the best. Scuff, the exclusive controller partner of the College COD League. And if you want to save, again, 5% on a brand new PS5 controller, because why would you be getting an Xbox controller? Come on, let's be honest with ourselves. If you want to get a new PS5 controller, then you can go ahead, again, use code CollegeCOD for 5% off your next Scuff order. I didn't realize they weren't doing PlayStation ones anymore. I guess I got one of like the last like PS4 controllers that they were selling the 4PS. I am so happy that I got this thing right before they stopped doing the runs on those. So if you want a PS5 controller, Xbox controller, or the PC controller that they got with the 5 macro buttons at the bottom and the ones on the sides too, I heard those are really nice for like MOBAs and MMORPG. So if you want to pick that up, hey, don't shy away from it. Again, 5% off with code CollegeCop. But that being said, we've got a Game 3 coming up for the Protocol Control. Newberry College down 0-2, looking to make a stance against the 5th-ranked Mars Hill Esports. Bit of a somber mood here for Newberry as they are down 0-2 to the Mars Hill roster, who is 5th ranked inside of the CCL this season, the number 1 ranked team in the Southeast Appalachian region, number 1 seed and $600 up for grabs for the team that is able to take this best of 7 conference championship. So lots of room to work with, not backs against the wall just yet for Newberry, but you would love to see them win a map 3 to at least make this series rather competitive.
Of course, and this is a format that rewards a deep map pool. And the next combination, Protocol Control, is heavily favored towards Newberry. I mean, they're 6-1 overall in the season when it comes to them on this map, whereas Mars Hill, I've only played it twice, and it's a 50-50 down the middle split.
Yeah, it's definitely a little difficult. I don't know if we lost Connie or not, so I'm gonna keep pushing. At least on my end, maybe I'm gone. Who knows? But I guess we'll just kind of like keep talking here instead. All right, we'll throw it to the maps real quick. We'll just talk about the Protocol Control. The rest of Connie, I wish I could finish up what he was going to be saying for him, but I'm not exactly sure where he wanted to take that point, so we'll just keep it centralized here on the Protocol Control. Just talking in a relatively broad stretch here for the Newberry roster. Again, he was kind of hitting on the fact that they are 6-1 on the map comparatively to Mars Hill, who is 1-1 overall on this specific map and mode for Protocol Control. You know, I was going to counteract his point afterwards by saying Mars Hill, I feel, are comfortable really on any map. They vetoed the Vault, and they lost to this Newberry roster on Protocol in the last series that they had played, so I don't really think that there's too much of like oh no, we don't want to play Protocol Control against Newberry. I think they're fine with taking their best map to them, as they've been able to do with the Hacienda Hardpoint and the Vault Search and Destroy, two maps that went 1-1 in the last time these two teams played. So there's nothing from the Mars Hill side that really concerns me when it comes to this Protocol Control, but I will say credit where credit is due to Newberry. They are a very strong Protocol Control team, and I don't want to spell doom and gloom here out through the entirety of this conversation between Newberry and Mars Hill. Like, I don't want to sit here and say that Newberry is just this team that can't overcome their bad demon of Mars Hill. They took them to a Game 5 the last time they played, albeit within the regular season, but throughout the conference championship, it has been stout play for the Newberry roster. So I hope for the sake of being able to make this a competitive and close series for Newberry, that they're able to take this Protocol Control and be able to push this even further throughout the rest of it. But across the board, I know it says 5-1 comparatively to 2-0. I believe that's flipped though from what I can see there. So just don't mind me, or don't mind the points that we made beforehand. But I'm by myself here right now. Hey, this is new. I haven't solo casted like this since all the way back in Black Ops 4 when I was doing NGE stuff. So this is kind of fun. I'm enjoying myself. I don't know if anybody's going to be able to hop back in here, or maybe we'll get Seymour or something like that. I'd love that. I'd love to have Seymour on the cast, but I miss Connie already. Miss his rather gravitating and strong European voice. Sure that most of you guys do too. What was that? Voice in my head, Mr. Robert? Connie, are we back? Doesn't seem like Connie's back unless he is gone completely silent on us, which that is unfortunate. He's in the call for the B-Makes, but we just can't hear him all just yet, so... Sorry for the wait.
So
he's back. Thank you so much. Welcome back, sir.
So sorry. You won't believe what just happened. But the internet didn't exist. It just stopped existing for a brief moment over here in my wonderful neck of the woods. But I'm back now. I'm really sorry for that split. So what were we talking about, Alex? What were we talking about?
Well, you were making the point where there was a 6-1 record versus a 1-1 record for these two teams. I kind of filled in the blanks of what I thought you were going to be saying, so I think that point is kind of over and done with now. We're just going to burn it to a crisp if we keep talking about it. So I think, great conversational topic to move forward to is just really the lack of firepower from Newberry, and I think that starts with Diff and Cells, the two players that I think are the most important on this Newberry roster to get going and get the other two tag teamed and pulled along behind them.
Yes, and it's an unfortunate sort of split when it comes to the two teams, and Newberry really have got a different level of an experience to Mars Hill, where Mars Hill have got a lot more players on their roster that are so used to challengers and so acclimatized to playing against each other, knowing tendencies and habits. Newberry have two players that can build that level of correspondence. The other two, though, are really starting from, the beginning, the sort of original embers of a COD career. and installing a system that's really advanced on new players, very difficult to get acclimatized to, and quite daunting too. You feel like as well as 2 players in Newberry, a lot more pressure here in the grand final, made the grand final, earned their spot. They make a mistake in this situation, a lot more harder on themselves, not so great for any sort of cohesion to build up throughout a series. In the best of 7, where you have to be on the same page as your teammates. Yeah. Not to say Mars Hill haven't had mistakes. In the Vault S&D, we saw many times, Alex, where they were letting things slip in man advantage. You know, that final round where it was a 3v1, then a 1v1, all 3 players pushed out of Palace at the exact same time, where, you know, we saw Cells hold Palms heady. You know, it's instances like that where they're not as serious when it comes to closing. They're starting to enter some very, very dangerous territory that could cost them.
I mean, like, on the counterpoint to that too, like, Mars Hill is good at being able to get that 1 kill and then just get out. Like, especially in S&D, like, after you get that first, most of the time you don't really want to overheat to that second player. If you get 2, it looks flashy and it's great because you put yourselves in an even better position. But, like, you get 1, you get out with your life, you just try to escape, get lost, get around the rest of the map, and then help your team take space somewhere where you actually want to, you know, push that objective out too. Because if you're playing middle map on defense, you're playing the feeler, right? If it's either A, you get 1, B, there's nobody there, and then, you know, off of B to B, you can just hit to the backside of spawn, and then, you know, just try to work the map back around, get full topside control, and then force your way back down into vault. But
yep.
I mean, that's pretty much how it is. Again, it's a very boring map, and I'm not going to take too much weight away from either of these teams or put too much weight onto another team for playing a Vault Search and Destroy. Like, yes, if you play the Vault S&D better, congratulations, you won a trophy of nothingness. It's pretty much how that map plays, and it's not to say that there's not strategy or anything that goes into that. There is a lot more, and for generalized purposes, I am kind of, you know, just putting way too much of a front-facing bow on that, but. Again, I'm just not going to take too much away from map 2. I think the respawns were much more telling in map 1. Mars Hill very much had a game plan that they wanted to commit to, and when they wanted to break into a hill, very much they could. Newberry, a lot of the same. Sometimes they broke down towards the end of that game. It was a fall apart on the back end of P2, on the rotation to P3, but going into this protocol control, as mentioned beforehand, they are good on this map. They very much have an opportunity to not tie the series up, sure, but at least start crawling their way back into it, forcing a map 5 out and making sure that that map 4 that we're going to play isn't going to be there.
We've had the wear of how Mars Hill established a comfortable 2-0 lead so far. We've had the what with the final 2 teams here in the Appalachian region in the grand final. But the how is, are we going to see Newberry scale up, take a map, and finally put some pressure on Mars Hill? Well, already they've got a comfortable life lead, and they're establishing control across both points. A comfortable section in the middle where Mars Hill is forced to push out into open areas to take gunfights with their guns down. I think now we start to see the A swing their way, an important kill going over towards Aaron. Trakes is trying to lock down mid. The reposition from Newberry, though, is pushing them ever closer to control points.
Not too upset about that for Newberry. I'm going to be completely honest. You get a timing in through no man's. You're able to get that first tick on the B zone, although you don't really get much out of it, other than there's that 1 tick. It still shows that opening break was good. 1 life the difference. Mars Hill on top of it on the defense. Trakes down below, looking to flank on through. Bad timing. Thought for a moment that diff was going to get absolutely hork slammed. But instead, we look back to the opposite side of the spawn where K. Beasley starting a spawn trap from the offensive side. Second tick of progress on B very much underway.
And it is so tidy. Not a single misstep yet counted. Rex is holding his life very well in the situation. Those 3 seconds of idleness, you know, creates sense now when Newberry have to overcommit. And the rotation comes in. It might work with K. Beasley and Diff really having the most impact so far.
They've got 1 on the point. I really would have loved a stack to come through there so you don't put 2 bodies on it. You know you just had 3 down. You'll finally get another one here. But reinforcements with Lucho up the staircase might be able to spoil the party. Contestion right on the point. Hipfire shots are good. 2 kills go the way of Mars Hill. The turn back around is going to find the 3rd. And what should have very easily been the free B zone, instead of being able to stack 2 bodies onto it, you just try to commit to other gunfights around the map. And so what would have been an extra minute, what would have been a great start to a control here, now you're fighting out of the backside of your spawn and cooped up inside of P3 with 24 seconds trying to scavenge your way back to B.
And there's not a lot of synchronized pressure yet. They're getting cut off in mid quite heavily. Beasley's the one who slipped through the net and can just about hold this with a submachine gun. Lucho in mid, I think, again, he's got a decision to make here because A's so firmly in control. Again, toying with the ideas, worst possible time, has to reset himself to get back into the control position. And Helicopter's already pretty well fenced in. Newberry have spread this really good. Diff has made a very impressive effort to hold the lines because 8-8 life count with a whole A to get through. Really doable for Newberry in this situation. And Mars Hill are scrambling for a new setup.
Backside still stays alive in the spawn of Mars Hill. So this will just continue to bleed lives off of the clock. But you want to start getting some presence on A. Aaron, who's on 7 in a row, is trying to play for that Hellstorm. But from behind, Diff will take him. And now this is where you can put presence and stack bodies on A. Mars Hill are probably going to want to throw a couple of lives away throughout middle map. They don't want to lose ticks on A here. But as K Beasley's on the flank now to the top side of Grandma's, you're looking for a few. It's still 5-3. Mars Hill very much in a winnable position.
I mean, Lucho, that's the one coin flip that can't work. And Trakes has to clear 2 awkward choke points. Newberry can close in on the hill. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Lucho was caught in one of the worst gunfights to be in. A very tough stair glitch and a very, very difficult position where if he were to get control of top ammo, we would be seeing a crossfire that would just completely stop any push from Newberry. But the way they held the lives, even at 8-8, had the right adjustments. Diff holding down position in Helicopter was mainly the reason why we saw a lot of freedom in Newberry's game plan there, and it was spectacular. They now take the lead here in the first round of the control. And Mars Hill and their responses, again, it now comes down to Lucho and what he can inspire from the team. We know he's a core Impact Island player. A slow first opening round. This time, he's attacking, and look at the positions already. One splitting off, that's going to be Aaron. The remaining Newberry players, though, full sending it straight towards the other side.
K Beasley's going to slip up through the cat sidewalk. Unfortunately, though, it doesn't read out that Aaron's going to be hopping up. But Trakes down below has a huge 1v1 to win. He takes this. They guarantee themselves positioning on the bottom side of the map. They can start working their way through no man's, but instead, it's Eternals who wins it. And now he can get ratty. He has 3 different options. He can either fly out towards no man, get top trips. He can go up the spiral and play bottom P3, or he can get back over on the B zone. Zuner, though, up top trips. We'll cut down a few players. Mars Hill on the defense, winning very, very important gunfights. And K Beasley's trying to flank yet again, but it's just not providing any sort of aspect for them.
And look at how Mars Hill's slowing it down there. They've got complete control of the south side of the map and the open lane. They're trying to get Lucho into the same top ammo position, but, I mean, a fear of control. Zuna's now taken the island position here mid-map, and Newberry are finding a good way to just cement themselves. They're setting a lot of pressure towards where they think Mars Hill can capitalize most, which, of course, is towards Castle and B. With already a tier being captured, Lucho holding it down by himself, and Nate's still in his back pocket. He can throw that and just keep a stall.
Oh, this is a dominant round of Mars Hill. Full mid-map presence, opening break-off that went swimmingly for him, and now it's just a push out of the lighthouse that you have to have, and as Zuner's over the top, trying to find it from top third. Now you're halfway through that second tick. Eternals was able to get through down low, but on the ladder, he is spotted out oh so swimmingly. And now Cells, he's the only one that's going to have an opportunity to push the point here. Around the right side of lighthouse, everybody is dead. Trakes finds the shots inside. Dip over the top of the pistol, can't find the kills. And with Eternals, he should drop here in just a moment. That might be the round.
Oh, it is as well. That kill onto K Beasley has cut off any lane. Newberry have got 1 player left. That's going to be Cells on the pinch. Lucho can hold this with no other HUD intel acquired from the stun. Mars Hill, wow, what an opener. And it's all thanks to Lucho that round as well. 2 important 1v1s to secure point. An awkward spawn timer for Newberry, meaning they had to funnel through Castle to get to the point fastest without sacrificing, you know, a tier going against them. It was just a rough one, to be fair, from all accounts. They were in panic mode in the final embers of that round. And a 1-1. So, Newberry, the response could be there. We saw what they were like on their opening attacking round. They can stretch it all the way to 10-10 life count, 8-8 life count. A lot of pressure on Diff again. Person holding that helicopter position and their main angle of attack.
Lucha will drop. This is a different read because Newberry, they very much went to attack B on the opening rip. They'll do it once again, but Eternals, I don't know if he spotted a player from Mars Hill directly down below, but I don't know if it will directly matter. You've already got 1 body on B, and that's going to be Eternals there. Looking for the double stack is now Beasley as he pushes up the ladder side. You got 2 players on top of this. Progress starting to work its way faster and faster. over the top trakes will fall, and now it's 3 players versus 2 inside of the middle of the map, and you have a funnel from Mars Hill that's trying to find their way around the AA gun. K. Beasley drops up inside of P3. Mars Hill will push, but that's 2 ticks already gone, and now around the lighthouse side, you have to look to Zuner, who's the last one here. He wants to slide out for the challenge, but it's won by Eternals.
And it's again another really slow start for Mars Hill here on the defensive rounds. Newberry copy-pasted the strategy of Mars Hill's attack onto B in the last round. They just flipped it round to, you know, be their primary attacking point for this one. They really committed to an early setup. 2 players pressed against Castle, 1 watching the mid-cross, 1 to pick up the spot if you were to die. And listen, the life count is very even, but it's because Trakes is now in the helicopter position, allowing Lucho to be the rat and elusive player that he's so good at being. Now, the positions that they want to hold is a high aggressive line here through this building and connecting a helicopter. Newberry can break it by going underneath bunker. And look at Eternals again. He's found the route here, Alex, and it's a beautiful opening to get the final third.
And that's nuts, because Lucho, when he died in the opposite side spawn, that was easily a call out to say, hey, both of them are going down to the bottom side. They just didn't expect Eternals to fly directly up the ladder. They were expecting something either through the bottom side of Grandma or all the way out on the staircase to get up to P2. So now that the B zone is gone, you very much have an in on the A site. You've got a 2-life advantage. Eternals is pushing the spawns on 4 in a row and sells his top trips. So you're trying to look around. Lucho might have just caught the north side of the map, but they're 2 on A.
Absolutely, and we have Cells and Eternals watching either pinch on the point. Zuna's got no utility to get them off, but wow, the team have coordinated well. We want to try and deplete A as fast as possible, force 2 players watching the opposing angles on this point to be drawn out of position, because that's the only way you can take them down. They're running and controlling these buildings perfectly, and you fear Mars Hill might have to overcommit to the positions in mid in both buildings to get players off, therefore losing pressure, therefore losing any sort of break-off potential.
Big flank from Eternals. 7 in a row through the spawn of Mars Hill. They're spawning so deep over to P2 at the moment. Beasley up top will shut down the pressure. That was top trips. And now as you look to push your way forward up the map, once again, a 2-life advantage. Still bodies stacked on the A point. Gunfights continuing to be won by this Newberry roster. But it's a 2-2 trade, a middle map that allows Newberry to go up 3-2. On the zone, Eternals by his lonesome. Close spawns for Mars Hill. Over on the right-hand side by Barrels, they're not going to be able to get there in time. So as quickly as Mars Hill was able to respond with 6 ticks, Newberry throw it back in their face.
There's no better solution from what we saw in this round. Diff, again, excellent at controlling where the position should be for his teammates, but also capitalizing on mistakes that we do see from Mars Hill. I mean, in that round, we saw Trakes take control of helicopter position. They had a little moment of genius where all the players were stashed in ammo, Trakes and helicopter, and they could have an aggressive spawn trap. But again, they just need the extra man. They need 3 more in the building, and they're already running a 2-1. So the numbers couldn't equate to holding onto the position for long, and then when Newberry had all 4 players up, they just smashed onto points. So now, with Newberry here in the driving seat, to win this round, they get a map on the board. The opening trade allows Mars Hill now to start controlling A, whereas Eternals has gone for the cheeky route.
And you have a Hellstorm on defense. This is like best case scenario. If something gets hairy and you need a big play, you need call-outs, you need comms on where people are. Eternals, it is on you to be able to call that bad girl in. 9 in a row. Spawn cleared out. Still back on the A site. You got one tucked away on it, and that's double digits from the man Eternals. Wasn't expecting a crazy big series out of him, but to keep them alive within the best of 7 and fighting for map 5. He is doing everything he needs to right now. That's pretty sexy, I'm not gonna lie.
Aaron breaks on towards B. Another player in Cells is there for the wrap around. We have Eternals watching the spawns. Newberry are very well oiled here, Alex. They have got a good system of identifying where we're going to be seeing Mars Hill pop up and how do we put them down again. Only a 2-life disparity between the 2 teams, and Mars Hill are really slow in the stacking round to get a point converted. They want to get A. Cells, again, has the line and one for him for a trade. Eternals in this position to just hold his life. Sacrifice over towards A, but he finds the kill on the player, and they can't quite get A over the line, Mars Hill. One last 1v1. Oh my goodness, Aaron dies on the point. Therefore, it's going to be Lucho to convert, and no one's even progressed towards B, whereas 2 from Newberry are already there.
Yeah, you just got the sprint out from bottom Grandma, which allowed you to get that final bit on that A zone. But with the extra minute and those two dying, now it's 16-16, and you are stuck in the spawn right now. Blender, Eternals, doesn't get the read on the second one. Maybe just a bit aggressive on the outside, but it slows them down for now. Zuner, Peglich, Helicopter, power position gone for Newberry. So this can allow you to play this up from side of P1. Maybe push into the spawn side. But Lucho's on the point looking for the staircase push. 3 dead. Mars Hill, Aaron last alive in middle map.
And Aaron's waiting for his team to actually come around. This is some very good teamwork to actually install a lot of pressure here. Who's wrapping around? K. Beasley. He's not going to be activated until right to the very end, and it's designed to get 2 kills for Newberry to stop any sort of potential. And it's a deep wrap. Look at this situation here that Newberry have orchestrated right from the very start. But no, he can't hold the kill. And look at the remaining arrows. They're looking all in the same way. Nobody's looking at Zuna. Zuna's slotted in perfectly into the system. And he's waiting for players to push around here, Alex. It's just a lovely idea from Mars Hill.
And the thing is the Hellstorm gets invested over the top, but it's still bodies here from Mars Hill. And with Zuner staying alive, now Trakes can just start pushing out. Presence, pressure coming back from K. Beasley on the opposite side. To the bottom of the lighthouse. Now Lucho and bottom Grandmas can keep continuing to play contestants here, but he doesn't realize that Diff's around the P1 side. Aaron will look for it. On the trade, it's there. 6 versus 4. No respawns remaining from Newberry. They have to push back.
And only 2 more respawns left for Mars Hill, and there's still a good fight here for Newberry to get control. But because Eternals is now out of the picture, you're forcing K. Beasley to be the aggressor. And look at mid control, it's all in Trakes' hands. But no utility and no trophies. It's easy for Newberry, if they've saved their nades, to get them off this.
And they've guaranteed themselves a defense. But as Beasley's on the backhand side, he's got a few more gunfights that he has to win. 1 versus 2. Cell's left alive. If he can do this to clutch up the map, it would be so hot. But no. It's Mars Hill.
It's not.
Through the middle.
It's not that hot at all, is it?
That's wow. Good.
It's another situation, though, where we look at this round, definitely the closest out of the 4 so far. 3 players left on the map to decide this one. And it's, you know, very hairy for Mars Hill. It was 6-4, and they knew that the fights were going to take place majority on Hill. They were constantly checking for the one flanker, because in a 3v6, you have to have, you know, one person to try and get 3 kills in a row to equalize. So there's a lot of factors to think in that round for Mars Hill. They just about get away with it from a lovely split position. But now, again, they're defending this one. They have the favorite side. And Newberry are going to go for a 1-2-1 formation here. A lot of pressure in mid. Diff immediately takes helicopter trophies this round to stop any projectiles. And Mars Hill already drawn away.
Ooh, got scary. Trakes had a moment where he could have turned cells into mush. But up the staircase, here comes Lucho. Through middle map, Eternals looking to the barrel side, but it's Zuner. And it's tasty AR that finds a double. So the A zone.
Crispy. Such
taken off,
crisp aim.
left out to go. And now Lucho's pushed up in the spawn side. And Newberry have nowhere to go.
And Lucho now opening up a beautiful diagonal here into the spawn of Newberry. It's collecting even more ammo, even more heads to add to the pocket, but with this push and Newberry's timer, they can break through this comfortably, and Trakes hasn't thrown a single bit of utilities, relying on his gun skill, relying on his movement to just really fence Newberry Esports back in their spawn.
And he's still looking to cook. Eternals on the staircase, wants to push out, but the AR might be too much here for Newberry. Swaps into the sub, backs off with 24 HP. Out to no man's land, he will survive. Doesn't want to take the haphazard chow up to top trips just yet, but with 20 seconds, it's Newberry dashing to try and get back on the A zone. Aaron dead, but Trakes on 6 in a row through the middle of the map shuts everybody down except for Eternals, who's all the way across the map. He'll get on A to stop the clock at 9 seconds left, but Trakes peppering him up. Teammates should be there through mid.
Oh, again, it's just beautiful Call of Duty. Newberry are relying so much on Eternals, but now he's gone. There's not enough time in the world for Newberry to touch a point. One last dash. Cells can maybe get to B from the ladder, and it's going to be an exit.
I thought maybe he slipped on the timing to get to the top of the ladder there. He climbed up with 0.5 left, but I mean, you just don't expect, especially after not getting shot at once, for Lucha to be on the wrap. But
they were hoping for the cinematic ending. They were hoping for the last gasp to suddenly turn into a half-second miracle. But no, Mars Hill, 3-0. And again, it's because of the insurance policy. They've gotten both points across their attacking rounds. Newberry will constantly down 3. And it's just an instance where Mars Hill, yeah, look at the numbers. Trakes 38-25. Really 29 non-traded kills in the control. You can just do the totals and assume at this point that we're looking at around a 1.3 average KD so far for Trakes across all 3 maps. He was incredibly positive. I think 33 and 20 in the hard point. Numbers don't lie, and this guy is in form. He wants his conference championship served to him in a beautiful array.
3 maps of dominance for Mars Hill. Decently close in the respawns. Newberry have been there toe-in-toe. But again, the problem just comes down to those late moments. It happens there in the 5th round of the control. It happened earlier on in the hard point where it was just back and forth the entire map. Mars Hill had a good look on P2. On a rotation to P3, they get broken immediately by a 4 down. Streak from Mars Hill didn't even need to be invested because they lost so many bodies. And then on the backside spawn, it was just 2 straight wipes that Mars Hill were able to get. So late stage breakdowns continue to be the problem for Newberry. Map 4, at least the bright spot, just kind of like it was in Protocol in the control there. Newberry did take this vault hardpoint against Mars Hill inside of the best of 5 series they played earlier on in the season. But I mean, that's another point to talk about too. Like we kind of like divvied it up and mentioned like, hey, this is why this is relevant earlier on, and then kind of shifted our focus to this series and these first 4 maps being 4 of the maps that were played in the last best of 5. But like, it's earlier on in the season. It's a regular season match, and I'm gonna be honest, with the way that Mars Hill has been playing against a lot of the other teams, I don't think they were necessarily too worried about dropping a map or 2 to Newberry. And those mistakes clearly have been fixed up a good bit. Here on the Protocol, you lose a couple of offensive rounds, but then you just absolutely bully ball them on the last one and put them in a hole. And that's what I was more or less afraid of for Newberry, is like, they have also been getting better throughout the season. That is very true. But when there's stuff to play for, when there's really stuff to play for, money on the line, I'm taking Mars Hill every day of the week. I'm sorry.
And that's totally fair. Based on current form and what we've seen so far in the last 3 maps, absolutely. We look towards the last series. It was a 250-179 for Newberry in the Vault hardpoint, and bear in mind, Vault was the opener. So they couldn't have asked for a better swing map. Vault hardpoint is always full of surprises, defect spawns, nade kills, which just raise a question mark or an alarm bell for any sort of block you might have had in mind to control the map. And it's just too flowy, way too flowy. The center of the map really opens up 5 lanes of attack that just cause problems for holding a hill. So you put a lot of pressure on the ARs, of course, to hold down these long angles. But the submachine gun players, and particularly Loot Show for Mars Hill, has to rotate between being an island player and being a core team player, being in a unit of 3 at all times. Because Vault, we just know, Alex, that you can break any hole, any setup with the overload. It's just not really big enough to have room to create these awkward diagonals on the map where you can just shoot up and control the spawn.
Lucho, Trakes, and the rest of this Mars Hill Esports roster have looked so good throughout the first 3 maps. First time that we're going to see a conference champion be crowned, because yesterday we had 2 matches that didn't end up getting put on stream. So we go to a vault hard point here where Mars Hill very much can close things out. But if Diff and Newberry have anything to say about it, it is going to be a hard-fought battle all the way down to the end. 4 hard points in the rotation. Plenty to get through here. First to 250. And right now, Mars Hill in a good spot to soak up some early time.
Oh, it's interesting, though, because Mars Hill's idea, again, was to get around 10 seconds and play for rotation. Now, Newberry had a lovely opening, Alex, and Eternals are still alive. No one's actually infoed him from Mars Hill, and it just creates, again, these little stalls in the push onto point where Newberry have more time with the players at risk to set up, and it just pays dividends to really locking down this area. And 16-3, again, scrap time can be left alone. The 1v1 on the east side of the map, and there was a spawn for Newberry, and who's rotated around? Trakes, but he gets cut off, and this now could be Newberry chaining for a 60. They've got the players, they've got the spawns. It's down to Zuna to cut it off.
Help should be arriving relatively soon. But that also rides on the back of being able to win these gunfights open by cut. Trakes will slide in. First one there. Drops into the pools, waiting for another push in. K. Beasley gets an unfortunate nade from a teammate from Cells over the top. And this has allowed Mars Hill to directly fly their way into the hard point through the front of pool. Cells on top of the truck. Aaron trying to watch the back line. 4-man hit directly forward. It goes 1-1 for a moment, but Mars Hill on top of the lives at the moment.
And Aaron is very disciplined here in this situation. Wrapping back into the point to support his teammate because they need the overload. Luke shows fully trusted on the island to try and cut off players around truck. And this is just beautiful pathing. where Newberry's attack completely faltered. Now, because of the player in Zuna being on the north side of the map, the split spawn will be there. Cells will be the first over to cross the line. This could be quite awkward here for Mars Hill. They will take the lead in this instance for the first time, but Newberry can hold position in the power spot. Cells and Eternals in both art rooms.
Thought it was the worst timing in the world for Cells. Ends up being the best thing as he turns around with the AR, wins it up close against Lucho, who had the submachine gun. So the left side of the map now, though, locked down fully for Mars Hill. You've got the art spawns. K. Beasley out by Palms will lay down with 32 HP. A wayward nade could take him out. It's just actually just going to be a straight challenge from Aaron as he gets the Omni movement to work his way. Eternals up through mid-map, has a 1v against Lucho, will snap to his head. He wants to flip the map out through art. No time being accrued. Diff will finally touch in. 30 seconds to be gained here on P3.
And Newberry will more than likely eclipse the lead here again for the second time in this map. Mars Hill, best thing they can do is try and keep this hill contested at all times. I mean, 20 seconds of scrap could go their way because Newberry and the offset timings and Eternal's position, they don't want 20 seconds of scrap time. They want the brand new hill to pop up ready for a take, but they haven't got the pressure. Look at this map positioning here. Different cells with ARs are holding down scrap time. Newberry are rotating around for heavy 1v1s. Eternals wins it, and the spawn block is strange. It will go the way of Mars Hill because they have the quadrant.
Cells, that is disgusting. Okay. All right. Love that. Keep doing that. Keep doing just that. But rotate a little further in the back so you can cut off this R push. Yeah. That's gorgeous stuff right there. Zuner going to be cut out. You got two pushing from the pool side right now for Mars Hill. They're trying to break this directly through the front. But with Cells being able to play a different angle, you'll finally get cut down from the Zuner push that comes through middle map instead of the backside of Art. So with that flip out, it's going to be split spawns. Newberry will be on the opposite side of the map. 25 seconds, a great time, should go their way.
And Newberry with these beautiful plays still aren't finding the lead they're looking for. You know, you expect maybe a 30-40 point gap, but it's still just a 20-point game, and Mars Hill are in the driving seat. Zuna's got the 5 spree, looking for a health storm. All right, now what are the player positions saying around this one with Zuna's ideas? I mean, the cutoff there is only a stall, information towards the south side of the map. And really, Mars Hill are just finding so much reward from the sacrificial lambs when the importance is not placed on their shoulders anymore, you know? And Lucho's giving such great information calls. K. Beasley's being the annoying one in this situation. No one's called him out yet. He's playing around the back pool house. Now they're starting to focus on this. Open up cells on balcony to cut off the point. And this could be an overload for Newberry here on the next set of hills.
Zuner tosses a nade down. That's the cutoff. He gives himself some space to work the pick back in middle map. The double challenge from you is going to come out on top for Newberry. As they continue to just let this hill time sit in middle map, it's going to be another hit that's developing from Mars Hill. Ripped off the heady is going to be Aaron. But from middle map, that play I was talking about that develops from the outside of P3 is going to be Zuner there. Spawns at the moment for Mars Hill. Gunfights being won in blue and red across the map. As Beasley's looking to play the back end of time here, there's 10 seconds to gain. It is not going to sit anything but contested.
And looking towards the new hill already. Lucho popped up there, ready to go. Scrap time for Newberry. It was such a focus. They have to push through pool and balcony. And Lucho has sat so far deep in this situation. And look at his teammates ready to collect the remaining kills. There isn't a deep block in the situation, but thanks to Trax's spawn, it just means Newberry now are going to fight from a diagonal. So Lucho's got better position and more time to play with. Didn't put the trophy down now on the hill, so that sacrifices his life. And Mars Hill, with no real blockers on this point, Newberry can capitalize quite comfortably here with a flip spawn.
And it was Beasley who got the bad timing. And although the spawns are in the back, Mars Hill winning those gunfights to the front is giving them the time in the mid portion of this hard point. Getting into the scrap for the final 20. Trax will just hop out, takes the 50-50, looks right instead of left, sells a double. So as the battlefield falls quiet for a moment, and you can see what Newberry are trying to do on the left side to secure those art spawns. Mars Hill are looking to set up. They've got ARs in power positions.
And look at Mars Hill as well. Smart from Aaron in the situation. Oh, no. Take it back, K. Beasley. It could have gone either way, but Mars will have a tougher spot to try and get the Palace push. K. Beasley's opened up, lovely with the sub, can run into mid and cause a distraction onto Mars Hill. They're still controlling the north side of the map here, and I think Mars Hill, similar to last time, are trying to keep this one heavily contested, Alex. Newberry capitalized quite comfortably and just kept overloading because this is their best hill to take out of the full set. But really, in this situation now, look at what Zuna's trying to do with the AR. He's got a position where he has to hold his life and just suppress fire because even at close range here, Trax is still in trouble.
Comfortable through middle. Yeah, the AR push, but it's Beasley and Diff who thwart what Mars Hill were trying to throw at this P3 hold. Pushing up the map, trying to cut one more off. You're just forcing Mars Hill to spawn deeper and deeper.
Dear God.
But you need to be careful. Because up the P3 street, you've only got one body watching it. Maybe Eternals is looking from the bottom side of New. You got the statue watched at the moment. Trake's the only one trying to work through middle map. He's spotted immediately by Diff. Now Diff can turn his attention back over towards the P3 street. He's forced to back off as he's thinking 3 bodies, but that gives the clear call out to Newberry that, hey, they're pushing street. We need the reinforcements over here stat.
At Newberry have gone for 40 seconds here without the hill being contested once. This is such a punishing setup, and Mars Hill did not play the last hill well at all when the scrap time timed. They found a break, but that's thanks to Trake's heroics. They have to play for 40 seconds here to really gap Newberry Esports. Although it's heavy damage and chip fire, Lucho should clear up the kill. Zuma's found a well into point, but look at the entrance. K. Beasley again. The thorn in the side of Mars Hill for this map is finding so much success in just stalling Mars Hill, but the team needs to find pathing to get to this point. It's very staggered, so they really are panicking in every re-clear of this point, Alex.
I mean, it just is so influential right there, and it brings us to the talking point of being able to play your life around an objective. Because it was Eternals who stayed alive, top P4 for so long, that allowed Newberry to have at least the split spawn with Mars Hill, so nobody was getting direct spawns in the back line. And then that re-hit that came in where they just were able to win gunfights was so important for them to not lose maybe 20, 30 seconds of otherwise time that would have went to Mars Hill. So now you look back to middle map is where the setup is starting to hit out for Mars Hill here. They're pushing out the right side. They have full control of P2 early on thanks to a 4 wipe.
Yes, and they might have stalled a little bit there on time. I think they're just trying to get one more wave of kills in this situation. And Trakes, listen, full set utility here. You got to spam this choke point. I mean, the gun skill is flawless, but you can't allow Newberry to touch this time. It's crucial. The angle is even more disgusting. And it's just, you know, fundamental play.
My God.
Mechanical excellence. The skill just stalls and stalls and stalls. Newberry need 15 seconds of scrap time here, which won't go their way. But who's rotating towards New? It's going to be Zuna.
Okay, K. Beasley. All right, get number 3. Go all the way forward. Oh, he's just going to overheat, too. He wants to sprint all the way out with 9 HP. You know the spawns are going to be wayward, so Mars Hill will be behind you. You're directly through the front. You want him in the spawn. Beasley makes the 4 wipe. He breaks P2 quite literally by himself.
Magical movements. And K. Beasley really is taking this map into his own hands. If you won't do it, I will, is what he's saying right now, and he's doing it flawlessly. Simply put, what are Mars Hill trying to do in this situation? Well, Newberry have controlled the spawns. They're finding little streaks of players touching the time, but the overload's always going to be Newberry through this back door. And Salves is finding some position. The skulls are dropping quite comfortably, and Diff can't find the last bullet. So this could be big scrap time here for Mars Hill. 20 seconds is big at this stage, because now we're crossing 190 points, a 45-point gap, and Newberry needs to rotate to New, but Aaron is so proactive, he's stuck himself on the other side of the map, so this pressure read is going to really fence Newberry into a tough spawn trap.
And with how scrappy this game has been, getting the back time scrap on P2 of about 25 seconds for Mars Hill is going to put you to the biggest lead that you've had all game. That was the play call there. They were so fine with it, and because they pushed through pool, they have arc spawns as well to go with it. So now you can play through middle map. Trace is going to have the cutoff through mid. He's going to spot the second one out, but he peppers everybody, so the hit is going to be once again slowed down. 17 HP from Lucho. Tough challenge to win. K. Beasley directly through the side door. And now with Zuner having 2 difficult gunfights to try and take against, Mars Hill going to be forced to try and play this through middle map.
And Aaron's in a really uncomfortable spot in this position because he's banking his teammates to perform well. He now again has to pick up the pressure and then allow for Zuna to retake position. Eternals in this time has completely controlled Art. Flip the spawns around with 20 seconds left. Newberry have, well, you know, sucked a good few seconds out of this hill. But crossing 200 points, it's going to be Mars Hill Esports. And they can go for 214 here, which might just be the next move on the board for them. They have to. They want to have at least a good 39 seconds on the next hill to close it out 4-0, win that conference title. But yeah, Lucho's the one that really is doing the impact. Newberry are routing back through the control point here. The block, they've got 2 players stuck there. Salz is coming in for a late pinch. Can be a break here, Alex.
What a read from Aaron as he turns around. He understands that the split spawn's coming through from Newberry. So all the way in the back, your last contestant player is going to be Eternals. He should get taken out and absolutely will. 25 seconds to the good. Mars Hill on the doorstep of a conference championship.
This is a tough hold. They are just allowing Lucho to soak up time. Zuna's been cut off the middle, but Newberry are so stalled to break onto this point. With all this pressure, the overload is still Mars Hill.
Hey, Beasley in the front, though. Looks for the second gunfight all the way back. Pistol shots aren't good enough, but Diff is still here. Diff looking for 2 more. Semtex might be able to connect. We can set the player inside of the hard point, but still time going to Mars Hill.
One last push onto the point here, and they can get 6 seconds.
3, 2, and the final tick comes through for Mars Hill. Conference championship comes their way. Number 1 seed for the Southeast region, $600, and a statement victory against the 9th-ranked Newberry College, who came into this fighting thinking that they had a chance, and I can tell you very much firsthand they did not.
It was a grand final that just really was a statement in itself for Mars Hill. A team of South American imports and some of the best players to ever come out of the LATAM region just 4-0'd in the grand final for the conference championship. I mean, I mentioned right at the very start, you know, when it comes to the caliber of teams, one thing I look out for again is the accolades and have you been in that winning mentality before. And Mars Hill just have that in abundance with some of the players that we see here in this lobby. Newberry, though, I mean, in terms of what to expect, they did fantastic regardless of the result. I have to say, when it comes to the plays and the counters, they had the right ideas in dealing with Mars Hill, even, you know, exploiting many mistakes out of them in the S&D and the control. We saw it, we were scratching our heads, and we were applauding, you know, Salz and Diff to really lead the team in such a good way. Look at the line graph, though. There was only a lead change twice. Newberry had the lead for P1. Then from that point, again, they took the lead back in the P4 at the end of the second set of rotations. But we just saw Mars Hill take control in that third and final set, not letting the lead slip once, escalating a lead, and that really gapped Newberry into one of the hardest defeats here in a Vault Hardpoint.
I'll tell you one thing, and this was very noticeable from Newberry the entire game, and you can kind of see it from this line graph as well. Maybe the only difference is maybe that P3 to P4 in like the mid portion of that hard point before we got into our final set. But like the one thing that was very evident to me is like they could break, but they couldn't hold. Like they were able to get the break, but it was the difficult to be able to turn that around, not only get time off of that, but to be able to read and understand where that next hit was going to come through from Mars Hill. And I think that's just a different level of a fundamental understanding of where spawns were going to be, because I think Mars Hill immediately knew the timings that they were going to be able to get when they came back off spawn, which allowed them to consistently put pressure, and why you kept seeing the feed go blue, red, and then eventually get 2 waves of blue kills that came through to give them more time. And towards the end of that game, when Newberry could not break anything, or when they were trying to play that P4 once again, they got that wave, they got inside. Mars Hill immediately turned that back around because they understood that the split spawns was coming through. And I'm going to tell you this right now, Aaron, when he made that read on the backside of pool for the split spawn that came out of P2 while they were holding down that final P4, that was completely and utterly the difference maker that allowed Newberry not to be anything to break that at all. Because if he doesn't get that kill, the flank happens, they lose 2 bodies, Newberry probably goes on to get 40 seconds.
And what really kind of stood out to me as well, when I mentioned the Vault Hardpoint before we got into it today, I think one of my key points was it's very hard to hold a hill on this one. So you have to look towards the ARs and how are they telegraphing their movements. Well, in reality, with every hard point, you always say this as a pundit, as a player, as a captain, as a coach, always telegraphed your opposing sub's movements and cut off the flanks. In Vault, it's also a map where you really have to telegraph what your AR is doing, whether he's giving up a power position to actively try and help the push onto the point, because it happens and it can get you an extra 20-30 seconds if a team is not putting the numbers on the hill. We saw that quite a bit with Newberry right near the end. That explains the sudden stonks graph for Mars Hill in the final third set of P1 to 4. But at the same time, look towards P4 in the first set, towards P4 in the second set. It's a really close line, and you saw the plays unfold before your very eyes. Mars Hill really struggled to actually get time off of the open hill. You know what we're talking about, the P1 to P2. They really struggled to actually get time off of this point, and they were hoping to bank on heavy positions. Just didn't happen. Where Newberry capitalized, broke it comfortably, and they had these beautiful box setups that really bunkered down on those hills. Again, you can't allow Trakes to find a route through that position. That really was the one player who can break those setups is in the opposing team. You look at the graphic here, makes all sense in the world. Mars Hill Esports, they're the Southeast Appalachian Conference champs here, Alex.
Yeah, no, big congratulations to the team from North Carolina. Out of Mars Hill, North Carolina, this team has faced adversity this season, but nothing that has been too tough for them. Again, I hate to, be the bearer of redundancy here, but like we very much expected this Mars Hill roster to come out of the Southeast Appalachian Conference with the conference championship. We expected maybe Newberry to play it a bit closer, but I think this is the score line that a lot of people probably assumed going into this best of 7 series. So can't say it was undeserved by any stretch of the imagination. They played a wonderful series from start to finish. So they will finish the technical regular season, if you want to count the conference championship on top of that, at a clean 15-0, only dropping 2 maps throughout the entire portion of what has been a very, very fun first half of our college COD season. That being said, a lot of other teams are still fighting for conference championships here, Connie.
They are, and if I was to do the actual math on the map count, I think it's 42-2 before this one, so now we're at 46-2 for Mars Hill Esports, which does sound quite absurd when you put that number. Yeah, 46-2 map count is pretty insane, especially for this structure where you're guaranteed to lose a couple maps. But no, I mean, look, you have to now at this point center yourself towards the next stage, regional playoffs, and for Mars Hill Esports. Will we see Newberry Esports at these playoffs here, Alex? I mean, again, Mars will have seed 1. And of course, it's still a reset for them. Not the end of the world. I feel like everything's not the end of the world until regional playoffs. That's when, you know, the wall hits. You sort of backpedaling like, oh, we can learn from this and we can scale forward and really take a good idea into something special. Yeah, the regional playoffs now for these two teams is going to be very interesting, and a very close eye on Newberry and how they can adjust, because they get really angry after that grand final. There's no denying right now they are genuinely angry and they want to see change in the team to not have that result ever happen again in the situation. But Mars Hill, total elation. Will they become complacent though because of this? That's a great question always to ask and answer. Always a great one.
No, I don't think so. This is, again, these are some of the best players, not only within collegiate Call of Duty, but some of the best players within the challenger scene as well. There's a reason they're competing at the top level. It's because they don't have a level of complacency. It's always chasing that next big dog, and even when you even attempt to break out of challengers or given CCL, whatever it may be, there's always that next big dog to try and chase. You don't get complacent until you're the best, and even what we saw this past week with Atlanta FaZe, they are still not complacent. They wanted to get back to where they are. They are looking dominant as ever. Mars Hill, they're going to have very tough matches come the playoffs and come potentially fighting on land for a championship, but they have to get there first. They have the #1 seed coming out of the Southeast Appalachian region. We'll find out who else is going to be the #1 seed within their regional playoffs, but they will play the 16th ranked team out of the opposite Southeast region going into their regional playoffs. Said regional a lot there, I know. That being said, we got another region coming up next for a conference championship. It's going to be Oklahoma Christian going up against Wichita State. It's the second ranked team is out of the CCL versus the #7. A little bit closer, at least towards the top end of Fisher. But again, Oklahoma Christian, they might look to do the same thing with a 4-0 sweep. Connie, final thoughts real quick before we get on out of here for a break and set that next one up.
Absolutely. I mean, in terms of Mars Hill and Newberry, not the last time we're going to see of them. Mars Hill deserved winners. Newberry still fierce underdogs, and both teams have the underdog mentality going forward. But of the remaining matches we're going to see today, we are going to see some very scary Call of Duty being played. So I would sit back and enjoy it. You know, we have the conference championships, and this is something that you can't take away from the winners of this prestigious stage in the tournament. They're going to have trophies in the cabinet, as with Mars Hill.
Yep.
You know, Oklahoma Christian, they're the biggest underdog out of everyone. They constantly feel this way. #2 for so long, and some of the best Call of Duty to watch. Don't miss it. And Wichita State, Exotic, most beautiful man in Call of Duty on your screens coming up next. So, yeah, it's pretty fun. Stay tuned for that.
Cruzy COD, Exotic, coming up next. Will we see Derry in a conference championship game? Find out after a break. We'll be back here. It's CCL, baby.